Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by Whoop. Check out the description below to join our team or sign up to get a free month or an extra strap with the link in our bio. On today's show, we have Brian Friend here discussing the ruling from CrossFit deciding that Nordic's Viktor Langsved will be ineligible to compete with his team. Brian, you wrote a pretty in-depth story looking into this case. Ultimately, CrossFit says that they're confident in the evidence that they have to disqualify Viktor from competing, but Viktor says that he's confident in the material that he provided CrossFit that should have allowed him to compete. Is there anything new that you've learned since the publication of this article that gives you a view one way or another based on the evidence?
Yeah, I mean, this obviously is a big topic of conversation. A lot of people have reached out in a response to the article that we put out, wanting to know not just what happened, but what do we think about what happened? And some of us have continued to investigate this on our own and have conversations about what we've kind of seen based on the evidence that Viktor and his team provided for CrossFit, and whether we think that it meets the expectations that CrossFit has for teams to be eligible or individuals to be eligible to be part of a team. There's a lot of information out there for people who want to know more about this. Chase Ingram was able to host a CrossFit podcast with Adrian Bosman and Curtis Bowler. And then Sevan was able to have Viktor Langsved on his podcast. So, if you want to know more about what each of the respective parties think, those are good outlets for you. But in the process of going through this and having these conversations, basically the conclusion that I and some others that have been in contact with have come to is that CrossFit probably got this one right, in the sense that even if Viktor had been training regularly at the affiliate throughout the course of this season, ultimately they were not able to provide enough evidence to meet the minimum number of days or percentage of days needed based on how CrossFit interprets the rule book that they wrote at the start of the season. And this is not the only team that this has happened to. There have been up to potentially 10 teams that CrossFit has investigated after getting word that there might be a problem. And there have been some other teams that were disqualified this season as well for similar things. In all of the cases that I'm aware of, CrossFit pursued the same level of investigation, and in the cases where they weren't able to meet the required minimum, not days training there, but proof of days training at the affiliate, those teams were also disqualified, and heartbreakingly so. I don't think any of these teams are trying to necessarily break the rules. I just think that there was, in some cases, not enough of an understanding of what would be needed if CrossFit asked for it, to be able to prove that all of their members were in fact training at their affiliate enough throughout the course of the season.
So, one of the really big things that stands out to me from this whole story is CrossFit, they've established a precedent that you can use an alternate if one of your teammates gets disqualified. So what does this mean for teams in future years, and maybe even using this as somewhat of a strategy when planning their season?
Yeah. So when I first saw that, one of the things, and I think a lot of people have also reached out to ask about this, is, well, do they have proof that Eric's been training with the team for a minimum number of days to meet the requirement? Eric Bjork Rubio is their alternate that has been permitted per CrossFit to replace Viktor at strength and depth semifinal. And again, in conversations that I've been able to have, what I've learned is you don't actually have to train with your team to be eligible to be on the team. You have to train at the affiliate. So in Eric's case, he's a regular member at the affiliate there at CrossFit Nordic, and has been, and there's plenty of either him paying his dues or checking in every day at the gym, or just videos on his Instagram and whatever else, that he's obviously training there regularly enough to be a part of their affiliate team. He is listed as their alternate. And so even if he hasn't been regularly training with the team, that's not what ultimately matters. It's the fact that he's been regularly training at and a member of their affiliate.
So when teams are looking to potentially prepare for next year or future seasons, how can they make sure that they have all of their ducks in a row to make sure that something like this doesn't happen? I mean, you said up to 10 teams were investigated so far.
Yeah, and I mean, why are these teams getting investigated in the first place is kind of, I think, ultimately the sad part of this whole situation is that means someone's reporting them. And why are these teams being reported? It could be that they're in violation, but more often than not, the CrossFit has found that the teams are actually doing everything that they're supposed to be doing and not had to disqualify the team. So that just makes you feel that there's like this need to get at each other or accuse each other of different things, which, it's kind of, like I said, not a situation that you really want to see. However, in the case that someone does suggest to CrossFit that you may not be within the parameters of the rules, we've also had the opportunity to learn from this through some of the stuff that CrossFit has been willing to share about their processes, that the really simple way to account for this is every day that you train at the gym, with or without your team, take a picture at the gym with the timestamp by the logo of the gym. And this is what they specifically said to CrossFit Nordic Original. Going forward, if you do this, then we won't have this issue. And that is, if that's good enough for CrossFit, then that's really, all that the teams need to know. And it's a bit unfortunate that we didn't know that at the start of the season, but at the same time, like they do provide and have over the years provided a certain amount of detail about, there's a chance that we're going to investigate some of the teams. Obviously, we know that there are people that are trying to create strong super teams or combinations of teams from different gyms potentially, which is okay. But if you're going to do that, make sure that you have everything in order. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to have those pictures day by day so that you can say, yeah, these are all the days that either I or we trained at our gym.
What does this mean for teams moving forward?
I think it means, first of all, that they should be prepared for something like this. If we're hearing of up to 10 teams for whom this has already happened, and maybe there's some more teams for whom it will happen or is continuing to happen, that, everyone should have kind of a best practices in terms of documenting that their members are within the parameters that are outlined in the rule book for that season. And that if CrossFit does come calling for any reason at all, that they are prepared to send that information. I think in the case of CrossFit Nordic Original, they thought they had enough stuff. And then when they didn't, they went back and tried to find some more stuff. My understanding is that CrossFit really gave them chance after chance to try to meet the expectations that they were looking for, even extending potentially the original deadline that they asked for that information. And CrossFit Nordic had to go back and try to find some stuff. CrossFit did credit them with a couple extra days in that process. But obviously the better situation would be that teams are prepared ahead of time so they don't have to scramble if CrossFit comes asking for that information.
And Brian, what is your bottom line?
I think the bottom line is, kind of twofold. One, I think that there could be better communication in the rule book from CrossFit starting next season about what the expectations are for teams. And that secondly, teams can also be more prepared in terms of, like we just talked about, making sure that that information is documented and organized in a way that will be easy to deliver to CrossFit if they do come asking.
Certainly an unfortunate situation from Viktor, but hopefully other teams can learn from this in the future moving forward. Brian, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting about the topic with us. We'll see you next time.